Welcome everybody. Tony, thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Alicia Stephens. I'm the Director of Training and Education for BioGuard, and I am very happy to be here with you this evening. I am on the East Coast, so a little bit later in the evening for me, and I'm battling a little bit of a cold, so apologies if I clear my throat a little bit, just trying to battle through the remnants of just a little bit of a cold. But very happy to be here with you this evening. When Tony asked if I'll take some time to talk pool chemicals, I always will say yes. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'll say yes because I like to talk about pool chemicals. I'm a big nerd like that. So we're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so just talking through what I like to call Pools 101 or basic pool care for you. And what I want to do is just really talk through the nuts and bolts of how to take care of your pools. So it's a little bit difficult when we're doing this online to really ask a bunch of questions of you, but um, if you can drop in the chat or figure out how to raise your hands on the screen, the raise your hand button is right there at the top. Raise your hand or drop in the chat. How many of you are fairly new to owning your pools within maybe the first year or two of owning a pool, and you're just getting started and learning what you're doing? So Joelle, you're new. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Thank you for letting me know that. Um, so you're still learning what to do and you're getting used to what's going on. And that's what we want to do tonight, is really to walk you through kind of the core of how to take care of pools. So we're going to talk about um, chlorine pools. We're going to talk about salt pools. Does anybody have a salt pool? Can you let me know if you have a salt pool or if you're more traditional chlorine pools? Let me know that if you can. You can drop that in the chat also so we know how to kind of customize what we're talking to you about. Okay, Joelle Assault, good to know. Thank you, Joelle. I appreciate that. Good to know. Is anybody else just regular chlorine? You can raise your hand or just let me know that in the chat also. But we're going to talk about just regular how to take care of a pool and give you some core ideas of what you need to do in order to keep it clean, clear, and ready for swimming. Because ultimately, that's what we all want, right? We don't want to be chemists. We want to go outside, get in the pool, and enjoy it. Chlorine for you, Jamie. Thank you very much. We're going to cover both of those for sure. So, with that said, let's dig in. So, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to talk about BioGuard specifically and BioGuard chemicals, and that's what you're buying when you go to the pool and spa house. So they are a BioGuard dealer. We partner with only the very best pool experts in the country, and the pool and spa house certainly fits that bill. So before we talk about anything else, the biggest point I want to make is when and if you have a problem with your pool, a question, something you can't figure out, a question you can't answer, the very first thing you should always do is just contact your pool and spa house location. They are there to help you. They are the experts. They know what they're doing. They have the best water testing. They have the best knowledge. So we're going to teach you how to take care of your pool. We're going to teach you what to do with your pool. But ultimately, coming back to them is always the right answer. When you have questions or you don't quite know what to do, they are always going to be the experts that are there to help you. So we'll talk a little bit about BioGuard in general. We're going to talk about the anatomy of pool, what you're looking at when you look at your pool, the keys to taking care of the pool, why we balance the pool and how to do that correctly, and then the systems that we use to take care of pools, such as salt or regular chlorine. And then finally, a couple of chemicals that we have to enhance the way you take care of pools, maybe make it a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient, just to make sure that everything goes smoothly over the course of your summer. So let's just start very quickly with why BioGuard. And there's really three big reasons why BioGuard is the right choice. And we'll start in the middle, and that's our professional partnerships. And what that means to you is you've picked the right pool dealer, and you wouldn't be here if you hadn't, because you wouldn't have gotten the link, you wouldn't have been invited to school, you wouldn't have been able to come here tonight and learn about pools, because the pool and spa house is the expert. So you've picked the right place to be. And we partner with people like Tony and his staff in order to provide the best pool care that we can possibly provide. What Tony and staff are able to offer you through BioGuard is two very important things. One, we have innovative products that will be the very best at taking care of your pool. and keeping it safe for you to swim in, keeping it clean, keeping it clear, and always having it ready to go when you walk out the back door and you want to get in, or you want your grandkids to get in, or your kids to get in, or you want to have a pool party. Our goal at BioGuard and the goal of the pool and spa house is to make sure that that pool is always ready for you. And we pair those products with the best water testing in the entire industry. So we have the most advanced water testing in the industry. And what that means is when you bring a water sample into the pool and the spa house, which you should do periodically, we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. They have the most advanced water testing technology that exists. So you can give them a water and they're going to tell you exactly what's going on with that water and exactly what you need to do in order to get it where it's supposed to be. So all of these things work together to provide you expert care, expert knowledge, expert assistance so that your pool is easy to take care of and it's always ready for you to swim, because ultimately that's what you want, right? You don't want to have to be a chemist. You don't want to have to worry about it. You don't have to figure things out all the time. That's what our job is. That's what Tony's job is. That's what the pool and spa house's job is to figure it out. It's your job just to enjoy the pool. So let us do the worrying. You do the swimming. That's what we're here for. All right. So when we talk about pool care, there's a few things that you need to be aware of. Now, we're going to talk about chemistry and we're going to talk about chemicals, but there's some other things that we always want you to be a little bit aware of. Now, if you've had your pool for a little while, you may think, oh, there's so many things that I need to think about. I didn't realize there were 5 things that I needed to be thinking about, but you're doing these things as you take care of a pool and as you run a pool. You may not realize it, but you're automatically doing some of these keys to pool care. I just want to point them out and make sure that you understand how important these things are so that when we talk about chemistry, you understand that chemistry is great and it's important, and we're going to talk about all the different chemicals that you need. But without these other keys to pool care, circulating your water and running your filter, cleaning the pool, testing the water, chemistry isn't enough on its own to keep the pool clean and clear. So the other keys to pool care are just as important. We're going to talk briefly about each one. They're just as important to keeping that pool clean and clear and ready for swimming. So key number 1 is circulation, and circulation has a lot to do with the anatomy of your pool. Now, some of you may have above ground pools, some of you may have in-ground pools, and really the anatomy of each one is about the same. The only big difference really is that an in-ground pool usually has a main drain on the bottom of it, and an above-ground pool usually does not. Other than that, they're really about the same as far as anatomy goes. So we have a lot of different areas here that we can talk about. But the one I really want to start with is right here, if you can see on the screen where I just circled it, and that is the pump and motor. Now, all of you have a pump and motor. And the pump and motor plays a vital part in circulation, which is one of the keys to pool care, but it plays a vital part in your pool anatomy because it's like your heart in the human body. Now, what does your heart do in the human body? The whole point of it is to move blood, right? It pulls blood through your lungs to put oxygen in it, and then it pushes that blood out to the rest of your body to bring oxygen and feed your muscles and your cells and to make it so that you can live, right? If your heart stops beating, what happens? Your body stops living because it doesn't have the nutrients and the oxygen and the blood it needs in order to survive. When your pump stops working, we stop moving water in the pool and your pool system dies out. You're not able to move the chemicals and the treatments that you need in order to keep that pool clean and clear. So the pump serves as the heartbeat of your pool anatomy, right? It's responsible for moving your water around the system. So that's the heart, the center of your pool anatomy. Before the pump and motor, on this side of the system here in yellow, this is what we call the suction side of the system. So on this side of the system, we're pulling water out of the pool, getting ready to treat it, right? And then on the other side of the pump and motor, over here, we call this the pressure side because now we're pushing water back through the plumbing and we're going to return it back to the pool through those little eyeballs that are in the side of the pool, or those are called return jets. So the pump is doing all that work. It's sucking the water out, and then it pushes it through your filter, your heater, your chemical feeders, anything else that's in your plumbing, and then returns it back to the pool after it's been treated. But that's just the basic anatomy of your pool. So the first key to taking care of a pool is circulating the water. Now, all of you circulate pool water. That's what you do, right? That's why you turn your pump on and your filter on. You may call it turning your filter on, right? Or turning your pump on. And you do that, or you should do that every single day. Now, we do that because we need to move water. We need that heart to pump the water through the system, right? Now, we want to do that at a minimum of 10 to 12 hours per day. That's really important because we need to move enough water through the system, through all the plumbing and all the parts and pieces, so that we treat enough water, we filter enough water, we chlorinate enough water, we heat enough water if there's a heater. If you have a salt cell, you need to pass enough water through that salt cell to generate enough chlorine in order to take care of the pool. So if we're not moving enough water through your plumbing system, we are not treating enough water to take care of the pool. And in order to move enough water through, you have to run your pump long enough to be able to treat it. So we want the minimum pump run time of 10 to 12 hours per day. This is very important. Ideally, those hours would be during sunshine hours. A lot of people want to leave their pump off during the day and run the pump at night because electricity is cheaper at night, or maybe the kids aren't in the pool or whatever that is. But we really need that pump run time, if you're only going to run it 10 to 12 hours a day, to be during the sunshine hours. That's when the pool needs the treatment the most. Now, if you want to get the best treatment you can possibly get for the pool, run it 24 hours a day, run it all the time. It won't hurt the pump at all. It's actually good for the pump. Won't hurt the pool at all. It's good for the pool. But a lot of people don't want to do that. So we want to run the pump a minimum of 10 to 12 hours a day. That will treat about 84% of the water that's in there. That's good. You only run the pump 6 hours a day, which a lot of people think 6 hours is plenty. You're only going to treat about 42% of your water. That's not enough water. That leaves a lot of dirt behind, a lot of debris behind, and a lot of water that never gets sanitized or treated or chlorinated or passed through the salt cell. So we want to make sure that we're running at least 10 to 12 hours a day. Now, some of you may have what's called a variable speed pump. Does anybody know if they have that? If you do, that means your pump is going to run probably all the time, but it's going to change speeds. Sometimes it's going to run faster, sometimes it's going to run slower, sometimes it's going to run maybe not at all. On your variable speed pumps, you want to make sure that it's programmed to turn the pool over enough. That can be difficult to do. The best advice I can give you with that is, if you don't know how to program your pump, or if you don't know how much water you're moving with it, talk to the folks at the pool and spa house. Let them help you get it programmed correctly so that you know how much water you're moving and you're turning over the pool enough so that you're treating enough. It's a little hard to explain without having it in front of you, and it's a little bit different for everyone. But again, we want to turn that pool over at least twice a day, which is that 10 to 12 hours of pump run time. On a variable speed pump, you can figure that out with a little bit of different math, and the folks at the pool and spa house can help you with that. The other thing I want to point out is those return jets, those little eyeballs in the side of the pool. That's how the water gets returned to the pool. In order to maximize circulation, those should be pointed down to the bottom of the pool, and then a little bit to the right or the left, away from your skimmers. Point them all in the same direction, but point them away from the skimmers. Pardon me. When you do that, you stir up any dirt and debris that might be on the bottom of the pool, and that gives you the best circulation possible. Now, what do kids like to do in pools? They like to play with those things. They like to move them. They like to shoot them up over the top of the water, right? You're not hurting anything when you do that. The pool's not going to automatically go cloudy or anything like that. But in order to get the best circulation, if you point them down towards the bottom and a little bit to the right or the left away from the skimmers, you're going to get the best circulation from that. All right. Key number 2 is filtration. So we have to move the water. As we're moving the water, we need it to pass through a filter. And as it passes through the filter, it's the filter's job to physically catch the dirt and the debris that enters into the water, maybe because the wind blew or it rained, or the kids jumped in with grass on their feet, or the dog jumped in, or any number of things introduces dirt and debris to the pool water. And when that happens, we need to be able to physically remove that. Otherwise, the water's going to go cloudy. So it's the pool filter's job to catch the dirt and debris. It's just like a coffee filter, right? What's a coffee filter's job? It holds on to the coffee grounds, right? And lets the water pass through and go into the coffee urn. The pool filter's job is to hold on to the dirt and debris and let the water pass through so it can go back to the pool and leave the dirt and debris behind. Now there's 3 different types of filters that you might have. You might have a sand filter, you might have a cartridge filter, you might have a DE filter. All of these are good filters. And Tony, if I can ask you, what do you mostly have for your customers? Do you know?
Sand and cartridge for sure. Cartridge seems to be more popular on new builds in our area, but DE is probably under 10% of all the filters in our area. So
okay, that's helpful. Yeah. So sand and cartridge filters they're really the most popular across the country. They're really good filters. They're pretty easy to take care of. In order to clean them, you rinse them for the most part. A sand filter, if you have a sand filter, you backwash periodically, meaning you reverse the flow of water and you bring water in the reverse flow up through the sand to rinse out the dirt and debris. And it goes out your hose and into your yard or your neighbor's yard if you don't like your neighbors, whatever you want to do with it. A cartridge filter, that's that pleated fabric where water passes through the fabric and leaves the dirt and debris stuck to that white fabric. If you have that kind of filter, periodically you pull that filter out, you rinse it off, you just rinse the dirt and debris off of it. It's always a good idea if you have a cartridge filter to let it dry completely before you put it back in to your filter housing and start using again. That lets that fabric tighten up and become a better filter for you again. So in reality, it takes a while for those to dry. It's a good idea to always have 2 filters, one that's dry and ready to go, one that's being used. When you pull that one that's being used out to rinse it off or clean it, you can put the dry one in, let your filter continue to work. And then when you clean off the one that you just had, you can let it dry before you use it again. So filtration, very important. We have to be able to remove dirt and debris in order to keep that water clean and clear. Now, periodically, when you're filtering the water, we do rinse filters. If you have a sand filter, you have a gauge on top of the filter that goes up as your pressure rises, right? Does everybody have that gauge that sits on top of the filter? If that gauge doesn't work, get a new one. You do need that. It's going to tell you when your filter needs to be rinsed. And when it gets about 10 psi above what your filter is when it's clean, that's when your filter needs to be rinsed. And you backwash or you rinse your cartridge. But periodically, a couple of times a season, you need to deep clean your filter. Not just rinse it off with the hose. You need to actually, what I call, shampoo your filter. Put a little soap on it, right? Or chemically clean the filter. And that's when you get something called Strip Quick and clean it. And you actually put chemicals in your filter to release the dirt and the debris and the grease and the oil and all of that stuff that your filter worked so hard to remove from the pool. Some of that gets ground into your filter media. It gets stuck to your cartridge. It gets stuck down in your sand and you can't just rinse it out all the time. So periodically, a couple times a season, you need to shampoo your filter. And we do that in a 2-step process. First, you use Strip Quick to remove the greases and the oils, and you follow that with Clean It to remove scale and metal and things like that that also get left behind. People ask me all the time, they're like, well, why can't I just keep rinsing it off? And I always ask them this. If you're outside all day and you're working out in the hot sun and you get super dirty and you come inside and you get in the shower and you rinse off, are you clean? You're cleaner than you were, right? But you're not really clean. How do you get clean? Well, you have to use some soap, right? You have to shampoo yourself. You have to use some soap to really get clean. Your filter periodically needs some soap to really get clean. And that's that two-step process. So if you can't remember what order they go in, it's just like taking a shower, strip first, and then clean it, because it doesn't make any sense otherwise, right? But that two-step process will help chemically clean that filter. So I always recommend sometime around the 4th of July, and then at the end of the season is a good time. It looks like Sharon asked you clean your sand filters the same way. That just popped up. Yes, you do clean your sand filters the same way. In order to use these in a sand filter, you actually will take the lid off. Strip Quick's obvious, but you take the lid off the cleanup bottle also. And you can pour them in either through your skimmer. You pour them in, you leave your filter on for just a few seconds and let these chemicals get into where the sand is, and then you shut your filter off. And you let them soak in the sand. And then after they have a chance to soak, I believe it's for an hour. I don't have the dosage instructions right in front of me, but I believe it's for an hour. And then after that hour, you just backwash them out, just like you would normally backwash your filter. So you would do that with Strip Quick, and then you could immediately do the same thing with Clean It, and you rinse your filter, and you're ready to go. So you could put it right in through your skimmer or through the hair and lint pot if you prefer to put it in a little bit closer to where the chemicals go into the filter. So does that answer your question? I hope so. So that is a great way to dig a little deeper and clean your filter a little bit deeper. Another thing that can help you is a product called Skimmore. I don't know if any of you use Skimmore, but this is a great product. This is a filter sock, and it looks like blue pantyhose. And when you put it over, you can see a picture of it here. I'll just highlight it down here, right? So you can see a picture of it there. And that blue pantyhose stretches out over the top of your skimmer basket. When you put it over the top of your skimmer basket, it acts as a pre-filter. You can see it's a fabric. It's going to catch a lot of really fine particles. It's going to catch a lot of dirt and debris. It catches pollen. It catches cottonwoods. It catches pine needles. It catches a lot of stuff that otherwise might get through your skimmer basket and make it all the way to your filter and really make it difficult for your filter to work. The other cool thing about Skimmore is that it's infused with something called Miselex. And Miselex is this additive that actually attracts and holds on to greases and oils. So when you put this over your skimmer basket, you're actually absorbing sunscreen, hair products, makeup, things like that otherwise gum up your filter. So you're actually absorbing and removing that stuff before it ever has a chance to get to your filter. So you backwash less often, your filter runs more efficiently and effectively. Miselex is the same thing they use when they have an oil spill in the ocean to help soak up the oil from the actual seawater. So it's a great product, and we've infused that into our actual filter sock. All right, so key number 3 is cleaning. Nobody likes to clean, but it is a vital part to keeping your pool clean and clear. We have a couple of chemicals to help with cleaning, but some of the key elements to cleaning are very simple. Vacuum the pool, brush the pool, skim the debris off the top, right? Those are important. Pools need to be brushed, whether they look like they need to be brushed or not. Your pool should be brushed at least once a week. And people tell me all the time, I don't brush my pool until it tells me it needs it. I always ask them, does it send you a text message? Like, what do you mean it tells you it needs it? They say, well, when it gets slimy. It's too late. If your pool is slimy, it's long past needing to be brushed. Because I always ask this question. Have you ever woken up in the morning and you forgot to brush your teeth? I've done it, and we've all done it at some point or another, right? You get up in the morning and you forget to brush your teeth. You forget to brush your teeth, you don't really think about it. I might run into you, have a conversation with you. I have no idea you didn't brush your teeth, right? You may not even realize it. But as the day goes on, what happens to your teeth when you haven't brushed them? They get fuzzy, right? They get stuff built up on them. And you know pretty quickly that you forgot to brush your teeth because you're getting that buildup on your teeth that you can feel. Now, I can talk to you, I can have a conversation with you. I don't know that you didn't brush your teeth. I can't see that buildup on your teeth, but you can feel it. And you know it's there, even though I can't see it. And you know that it needs to be brushed off. Your pool gets sweaters, it gets fuzz on its teeth. You can't see it, but it's there and it needs to be brushed off, because if you don't brush it off, eventually it's going to build up to the point where you can see it, and then you've got a big problem. If your teeth are so built up that I can see the fuzz on them, you've got a pretty big problem, right? You're way past the time when you should have brushed them. The same thing with your pool. If it's slimy, it's got stuff built up on the surface that you can actually see, you're now wasting chlorine. You're going to have a hard time keeping the water clear. You're way past when you should have brushed. So pools should be brushed once a week. We have a couple of chemicals to help with cleaning. Off the wall. Off the wall is our surface cleaner. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's your Formula 409 surface cleaner, just like you'd use in your kitchen, except for this one's formulated for your pool. It helps you clean your pool surfaces. If you have a spot, helps you clean your spot surface, but it doesn't hurt your pool chemistry while you do it. Now, do not use household cleaners on your pool liner. Don't use Formula 409 on your pool liner. You'll have 409 headaches after you do it. So you want to make sure that you're using something that is safe for the pool surface, and off the wall is safe for the pool surface. It won't hurt your liner. It won't hurt the surface. It won't hurt your chemistry, but you can use it to clean buildup off the liner, anything else that you might need to wipe down. The other product that we have is something called Stowaway. Stowaway is to help you stow your covers. You can stow your winter cover in the summer, your summer cover in the winter. But as you're folding up or rolling up a cover and getting ready to put it away, a lot of times you have to lay it out on your lawn, let it dry completely, kill all your grass in the process, right? With Stowaway, you don't have to let anything dry. You can put it away wet. Just every time as you roll it up or fold it up, every time you make a crease or a fold, you put Stowaway in that crease or fold. Fold it again, put more Stowaway in the crease or fold. You can put the cover away wet. It won't mold, it won't mildew. You won't have any problems with it. When you pull it out to use it again in the next season, it'll be completely clean and clear and ready for use. So it makes it really easy to store covers.
Is this helpful? Is this helpful? Because dinner's ready if you.
All right, so let's talk about key number 4, which is testing. Testing is very important. So how do we know what to do with your water chemically if we don't know what's going on in your water, right? So you should be bringing a water sample to the pool and spa house a minimum of once a month. Okay, that's a minimum. You should also be bringing a water sample to the pool and spa house anytime the water doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right, you're having trouble of any kind, and you're coming to see the folks at the pool and spa house, bring a water sample. Because we can tell a lot from your water just by running it through that state-of-the-art water testing technology that I told you about. But a minimum of once a month for testing. Now, in the meantime, you should be testing at home, right? We have test strips, there's test kits, there's all sorts of options for you to be testing at home. And we'll talk about what you're testing for here in a minute. But a couple of things about water samples, especially when you're bringing water into the pool and spa house. One, take the sample from elbow depth. So go in as far as your elbow to take the sample. 2, go away from your return jets. Don't take samples right in front of your return jets. That's not an accurate water sample as to what's going on in your pool. And 3, try not to leave it in your car all day. If you can't take it directly to the pool and spa house, keep that sample at room temperature. Don't let it get super hot. Don't let it get super cold. Keep it at room temperature. If you're not able to do that, it's not going to be an accurate sample for testing. So make sure that when you pull it, you pull elbow deep away from the return jets and try to get it to the pool and spa house as quickly as possible, but make sure that you keep it at room temperature if you can't get it there immediately. All right, so let's talk about chemistry. So there's two halves to pool chemistry. One is what I call test and react chemistry, which we're going to talk about first. And the other half is what I call non-negotiable pool care. And that is your just weekly water balance, what you're going to do every single week in order to take care of your pool. That's the stuff that you don't need a test to tell you to do. That's the stuff that you're going to do every single week, regardless of what's going on. So we're going to tackle both sides of this, but we're going to start with water balance or test and react chemistry. And there's three main things that you guys need to look out for. There's 5 on this slide. pH, alkalinity, calcium hardness. Those are the 3 things that we can test and adjust. They contribute to TDS and the saturation index. You don't need to worry about those numbers. Tony needs to worry about those numbers. The pool and spa house needs to worry about those numbers. They'll take care of that piece for you. But pH, alkalinity, and calcium hardness, those are the things you might test for at home. And calcium hardness, really something the pool and spa house is going to worry about for you. pH and alkalinity are the 2 things that you might be looking at home a little more often. But let's dig into why those things are important. So when you balance a pool, first and foremost, the most important thing that you can have in your pool is chlorine. Okay? Whether you have a salt pool, which creates chlorine on the spot, or you're adding chlorine to the pool, the most important thing that you have is a chlorine residual. That's what kills bacteria. That's what keeps people safe. That's what helps keep the pool clear. With that, we want to make sure that we're balancing the pH to keep the water clear and comfortable. The alkalinity, we'll talk about the role of alkalinity here in a minute, and the calcium hardness. So these ranges are where we're trying to get these parameters to. Now, the numbers might be a little bit intimidating for you. Let me say 2 things. 1, you don't need to really worry about the numbers specifically. The pool and spa house will do that for you when they run your water sample. You're going to know exactly where it needs to be, and they're going to know exactly how to get there. 2, if you're testing at home, and specifically at home, we want you to be watching your free chlorine. We want you to be watching your pH specifically. Those are the 2 most important things that you're watching at home. And then probably your alkalinity a little bit, depending on how often you come in and get your water tested. But if you do that with something with a test strip, it's going to give you a range on the bottle. Are you low, are you high, or are you good? That's good enough for at-home testing. If you're low or you're high, guess what? Take your water, go to the pool and spa house. They're going to tell you how low or how high and what you need to do about it. And it's really that simple, right? It's really important to get these things in range. We'll talk about why that is, but you don't have to worry about the specifics of getting them exactly where they need to be. We can do that for you. Water testing software can do that for you, but you do need to keep an eye on where they are and make sure that you're getting them to the correct ranges. So why do we care about water balance? Why do we care where the pool is balanced to? Well, for a lot of reasons, but for one, you guys spend a lot of money having pools, right? And they're not cheap to put in, they're not cheap to maintain necessarily. So we want that pool, that environment, the equipment that it takes to run a pool to last as long as possible for you. Water balance, properly balanced water is a big piece of that. We don't want the environment to be corrosive. We don't want it to be scale forming. We want that equipment to be protected. We want that water to be neutral for it. We don't want your pool surface to be damaged at all. We don't want swimmers to be uncomfortable. And we'll talk about some of the things that make swimmers uncomfortable in pools. It's not what you think it is. And we want your chlorine that you're either making with a salt cell or putting in with a chlorine tab. We want that chlorine to be as efficient as possible. You want to use the least amount of it as you can to get the residual that you need. And water balance is an important part of that. So pH and alkalinity are an important piece of this. These are the 2 things you may be looking at home. pH has a lot of work to do. in a pool. pH's job is to keep the pool clear. Its job is to protect the equipment, to not cause any damage. pH's job is to make sure that bathers are comfortable, swimmers can swim around without any problems. pH's job is to make sure that chlorine is able to work the way it's supposed to. pH has a lot to do. Alkalinity only has one job to do. And that job is to keep pH where it's supposed to be. That's it. That's its only job. So total alkalinity's job is to keep pH where it's supposed to be. pH's job is to keep the pool clean, clear, and comfortable. We need these two things to be in the correct range in order for that to happen. Now, if you ask what causes pH to change, it's got a lot of work to do. We need it to be in a very small range, 7.4 to 7.6. So we need it to stay in a pretty small range. And if you say what causes pH to change, there's really a pretty quick answer to that. Everything. Everything causes pH to change. So if you have a salt pool, pH always wants to go up. That's part of saltwater chemistry. If you have a chlorine tablet pool, pH always wants to go down. That's part of chlorine tablet chemistry. If it rains, if swimmers get in, if you put different chemicals in, you put more water in, any of those things want pH to change. So pH is constantly trying to be out of balance. So alkalinity has a really important job, and I use this graphic because it makes me laugh, right? But alkalinity's job is like the anchor on a boat, right? Has anybody ever gone fishing on a boat? When you go fishing on a boat, what do? You launch your boat, you take the boat out to your fishing spot, and what do you do when you get there? You throw the anchor, right? Somebody once told me, they're like, you jump out of the boat. Like, what kind of fishing are we doing here? Then I had a 20-minute discussion on noodling, and if you don't know what noodling it is, look it up. It's very disturbing. But you get to your fishing spot, you throw the anchor. Why do you throw the anchor? Because you need the boat to stay in one spot, right? You need the boat to stay in your fishing hole. Alkalinity is like your boat anchor. You use alkalinity, you balance alkalinity because you need pH to stay in one spot. If alkalinity is not balanced, pH moves all over the place. If you don't throw the anchor, your boat drifts away and it doesn't stay where you want it to stay. So we balance alkalinity to keep pH where it's supposed to be, and we use pH to keep the water clean, clear, and comfortable. So those two things have to work together in your pool. Now, when your pH gets out of balance, that's when you start to have some problems that sometimes can be a little bit hard to solve. Again, if you have problems you can't solve, cloudy water, anything like that, just bring your water in. The pool and spa house will test it. They'll tell you exactly what you need to do. But some things to look out for. If your water goes cloudy, if you start to get white chalky buildup on things, your pH is probably too high, right? If your swimmers get irritation on their skin and eyes, your pH is probably too low. We get a lot of times, little kids will get in their pool. I always say little kids because they tend to swim around. They dive for things, right? They swim around. Their eyes are open all the time. They don't care about goggles. They'll swim. They'll open their eyes. They'll swim around. They get out of the pool and they look at you and their eyes are bloodshot and they're red, right? I always say it looks like they've been on a 3-day bender, right? And what do we usually blame that on? We always blame it on chlorine. It's not chlorine that causes those bloodshot and stinging eyes. It's pH. So if your swimmers are complaining about itchy skin or burning skin or stinging eyes, that's usually an indication your pH is not balanced properly. Bring your water in, get it tested, see where it's at, and we can make an adjustment so that we can make sure that we get it balanced properly. So these are some of the chemicals you might see if your water is out of balance. Again, our Alex water testing software is going to tell you exactly how much of these you might need if you do need to make an adjustment. Low and slow will lower your pH if it's too high. It'll lower your alkalinity if it's too high. Balance Pack 100 will raise your alkalinity if it's too low. Balance Pack 200 will raise your pH if it's too low. So we have plenty of things to adjust these parameters if need be. We just need to know that they're out of balance. And in order to do that, you have to test your water, or you have to bring your water in to be tested. Remember, this is test and react chemistry, right? And we need to be able to react to that. We do have a product called Balance Complete. Balance Complete, if you're on salt, Joelle, this is not for you. You do not need this product. But if you're on chlorine tablets, this product will serve as something that will help you lock your pH in place. It will help you put it in once a week as part of your weekly maintenance program, and it will keep alkalinity exactly where it's supposed to be, which will help lock your pH in place and keep it exactly where it's supposed to be. This can make water balance super easy for you to where your pH isn't moving, your alkalinity is not moving. You're just putting this in once a week, a certain amount, the same amount every single week. So if this is something that you're interested in, if you're using chlorine tablets, you can ask the folks at the pool and spa house. They can give you a ton more information on this. But this is a great way to make water balance a lot easier for you. The third element of water balance is calcium. So calcium is something that you deal with it maybe once or twice in a summer, and then you really don't have to worry that much about it again. But it is an important thing to test for and an important thing to manage if necessary. If you don't have enough calcium in the water, water gets very aggressive and very damaging. If you have a plaster pool, it will eat away the plaster. If you have a vinyl liner pool, it will eat through the vinyl and pull out some of the plasticizers in the vinyl. So low calcium water is going to aggressively seek calcium, find it, pull it out, and do a lot of damage in the process to your pool surface and equipment. We don't want that to happen, right? Now, on the flip side of that, if you have too much calcium in the water can't hold on to it. It gets saturated like a sponge. When a sponge gets too much water in it, what happens? Water starts to drip out of it, right? When water gets too much calcium, what happens? Calcium starts to fall out of the water. And when that happens, you get white, gritty buildup on your pool surfaces, sometimes in your heater, maybe inside your salt cell. And this can cause a lot of damage, and it's ugly. It's not something that you want built up in your pool. So we want to have enough calcium in the water so the water's not damaging anything, but we don't want to have too much calcium in the water because that's going to cause damage in its own and can be ugly and difficult to manage in the pool. So you're going to test your calcium or have your calcium tested. The thing with calcium is once it's in water, it stays in water. So if you have to add it, once you add it, you don't really have to worry about it again. If you have too much calcium and water can't hold on to it, unfortunately, you can't remove it. There's no good way to remove calcium from a swimming pool. But we do have a product called scale inhibitor that you can put in on a monthly basis that will hold on to that calcium and make sure that it doesn't fall out, cloud your water, put that white chalky buildup in your heater or your salt cell or anything like that. So if you don't have enough, we can add it. Balance Pack 300 will add calcium. But if you have too much, we have to constantly add in a product that will help hold on to the calcium and help water hold on to the calcium so that it doesn't fall out of solution. Again, the Pool and Spa House will tell you if you need that, and they will get you on the right program in order to balance the amount of calcium that you have in your water. You also need to have stabilizer in your water. Now, this is true whether or not you have a salt pool or a regular chlorine pool. Now, in a regular chlorine pool, when you're using tablets, you're automatically adding stabilizer with the tablets. In a salt pool, you are not. Stabilizer is sunscreen for your chlorine. If you don't have it, the sun eats up half of your chlorine that you have in the water every 35 minutes. It just gets wasted. Gets burnt up, it goes poof up into the air, doesn't have a chance to do any good for you. With stabilizer, that 35 minutes, now chlorine lasts 6 to 8 hours. So it's like putting sunscreen on. It doesn't get burnt up. It doesn't go poof up into the air for 6 to 8 hours instead of 35 minutes. So we want to make sure there's sunscreen in your water to protect your chlorine. If you're using chlorine tablets, you're automatically putting it in there with it. If you're using salt, you're not automatically putting it in there. Now, we can test for sunscreen. We can test for stabilizer. We can tell you if you need to add more. We can get you products to do that. And Tony and his team will test for it for you and let you know that. But it's just something to be aware of, that you do want to protect the chlorine that you're making. Otherwise, you just have to keep adding more and more and more and more chlorine, and it's hard to keep up with. The final piece of water balance is looking at your phosphate level. That's not something that you test for at home. That's something the Pool and Spa House will test for you. Phosphates come from a lot of different places. They come from lawn treatments and agriculture and rain and the environment and all sorts of things. And when you get phosphates in the water, they can cause cloudy water. They can contribute to the growth of algae in your pool. So again, something that if you have them, we want to make sure that we remove them. Tony and his team will test for them. They'll let you know if you need to add a product called Zero Phos to bring the level down. And then we have a product called Pool Complete Weekly that will help keep that level down. Pool Complete Weekly does a lot of things. We'll talk about it here in a minute, but it will also help keep that level down. Not something you need to worry about unless the team at the Pool and Spa House tells you about it. They're going to test it for you. If they tell you it's too high, they're going to help you have a plan to get it down. Once you get it down, they'll have a plan for you to keep it down. But phosphate is something that can cause you a lot of problems with water quality, and it will make it more likely that your pool goes green. So we always want to make sure we get that level down and keep it down if you do have a high phosphate level. So removing phosphate just means you're going to have less equipment issues and just overall better water quality. All right, I'm going to take a breath for a minute. We're going to shift gears and finish up with the program approach to pool care. And the program approach to pool care, this is the non-negotiable pool care I was talking about, right? What we just covered was test and react pool care. You're going to test the water. If one of those parameters is not balanced correctly, you're going to react to that. You're going to put a balancer in one of those products we talked about in order to make sure that the water does what it's supposed to. You can test at home if it says high or low. Bring the water in, let the Pool and Spa House run it through their water testing, and they're going to give you exactly what you need of each one of those products in order to solve your problems. But what we're shifting gears to now is this is your weekly pool care maintenance. This is what you're going to do all the time on a schedule in order to take care of your pool. Now, Joelle, hang tight with your salt. We're going to talk about salt in a minute. Yours is going to be a little bit different. But for those of you that are on regular chlorine, we have what's called the 3-step plus approach to pool care. And this is the simplest, easiest approach to pool care that we could ever create. And it's going to make so much sense in order to keep your pool clean, clear, and ready for swimming. So this is pool care in just minutes a week. Okay, you're going to do this regardless of what a test tells you, regardless of if it rained or didn't rain, or the kids swam or didn't swim, or if it was 90 degrees or 70 degrees or whatever. This is your weekly pool care program. And this program focuses on 3 things. We're going to sanitize to kill bacteria. We're going to oxidize to clear the water and get rid of contaminants. And we want to prevent the pool from turning green, right? Nobody wants a green pool. So those are the 3 things that we focus on with this non-negotiable weekly pool care. So sanitize, shock, prevent algae, that's the 3 steps. And then the plus sign is a couple of products that we have that you don't have to do them, but in a world where we want things to be easier and more efficient and better and less likely to have problems, we have a couple of products that you can add to this program that makes everything a little bit smoother and a little bit easier to manage. And with pools, easier is always better. And that's what that plus sign is. So step 1, sanitizing, we have our SilkGuard Complete. Those of you who are using chlorine tabs are probably using SilkGuard Complete. Step 2, for our oxidizer to get rid of contaminants, we have our Smart Shock. You're probably familiar with Smart Shock. Step 3, to prevent algae, we have our Algae Complete product. And then the plus sign, to make it all easier, we have our Pool Complete Weekly, or some of you may be using Optimizer. We'll talk about both of those here in just a minute. So Pool Complete Weekly or Optimizer, those are our plus sign products. So step 1, sanitizing is important because sanitizers are what we use to kill bacteria, right? We kill bacteria to keep people safe, to keep them from getting diseases. We want to make sure that we're protecting our swimmers. So we want a 1 to 4 part per million sanitizer residual at all times in the pool. So that's one thing you're going to be testing for at home. You test for your chlorine level. You want to make sure you always have a chlorine level in the pool. And Joelle, with your salt, you're going to be doing this too because the salt pool is creating chlorine. and you want to make sure that you always have chlorine in your pool. You're going to create it a little differently. You won't be adding a tablet, but you are still creating chlorine. But for those of you that are adding tablets, you're going to be adding a product called SilkGuard Complete. Now, this is where BioGuard shines. This is what sets BioGuard products apart from other places that you could buy a chlorine tab. Because there's not just chlorine in here. We put chlorine in here. Chlorine kills bacteria. It's great. It's really good at that. But this isn't just your average chlorine. So on top of killing bacteria, when you put SilkGuard Complete in your pool, we kill bacteria. We soften the water so it feels better while you're swimming. It feels better on your skin and your hair and your eyes. We protect your equipment. We actually put a coating on all your metal parts and pieces so that they don't corrode, they don't get damaged, even if your pH goes a little out of balance or your calcium hardness level gets where it's not supposed to be. We put a protectorant in there so we're actually protecting your equipment in the pool. So the water feels better. We protect your equipment. The water looks better, right? We have a little bit extra algae protection in there. And we put an additive in this product to where if your pump and filter aren't running, this product stops dissolving. Because why do you want to dissolve chlorine when the water's not moving? It's just going to sit there, right? So this one's magic. Water's not moving, it doesn't dissolve. Water starts moving, it starts dissolving. Pump shuts off, it stops dissolving. So you're not wasting any chlorine with this, right? Water moves, we feed it. Water doesn't move, we don't feed it. So the chlorine lasts longer. It's more efficient. You don't waste it. The water feels better, it looks better, and you're killing bacteria. All in this one product. So when you buy SilkGuard Complete, you're not just buying chlorine to kill bacteria. You're getting so many extra bells and whistles that will make your pool look better and feel better and easier to take care of. So we're protecting it, making it feel better, and we're killing bacteria. All in the same bucket. The second step is oxidizing or getting rid of contaminants. This is important because bathers specifically leave a lot of things behind in pools. Now, this can come from a variety of sources. One, you have 10 little leaguers in your pool and they drink 85 juice boxes and your bathroom floor never got wet. You have stuff that needs to be oxidized out of your pool. You have teenage girls that get in the water. Have you ever seen a teenage girl get in the water? It looks like an oil tanker went down, right? You've got makeup and cosmetics and hairspray and all sorts of stuff in the water. Adults get in pools, adults pee in pools too. Don't let them tell you they don't, they do, right? There's all sorts of waste that gets put in pools. And we need to make sure that we're able to break that down. Your sanitizer does some of it, but we need to take it a step further with our oxidizers. So we add a product called Smart Shock. And what Smart Shock does is it goes in and it burns up all those contaminants and gets rid of them very quickly. Now, you don't have to do this all the time. If sanitizing, we do all the time. Smart Shock, we just have to do this once a week. So periodically we go in once a week, we burn up all those contaminants, we get rid of the extra contaminants that build up over the course of that week, and then we can wait another week before we have to do it again. Smart Shock is unique, does a really good job of getting rid of contaminants. It's really strong and really good at what it does, and you can swim 15 minutes later. If anybody has kids that like to get in pools, you know swimming 15 minutes after you put chemicals in is vitally important to your own sanity, right? So this product is very unique in that it's very good at getting rid of contaminants, keeping your water clear and safe for swimming, but you can swim 15 minutes later. And that is one of the best selling points of it. And we put a little extra algae protection in this also. So we're really doing a good job of helping your algae side, which we're going to talk about, prevent algae and getting rid of contaminants. So step number 3 is preventing algae. And this is important because algae is constantly being introduced to pools all the time. From wind, from rain, from dogs, from ducks, from birds, from swimsuits, from feet, from absolutely everywhere. And if we don't do something about it, algae will grow in swimming pools very easily, actually. Now, we add a little algae protection to your SilkGuard Complete. We add a little algae protection to your Smart Shock. But what's really doing the heavy lifting to keep your pool clean and clear this is step number 3, right? 3-step program is Algae Complete. This is the fastest, strongest algicide that exists in the pool industry. Okay? This is great for weekly prevention. You add a little bit every single week to help prevent algae. But if for some reason something went wrong and your pool turned green, this is also the perfect product to clean up a green pool. And you will get results in 8 hours if you do have a green pool. So this is by far the strongest, best algicide on the market. It is good at killing and preventing every single type of algae that we have been able to find and grow in a swimming pool. We've done a lot of research on this ourselves. We formulated this ourselves, and we are completely confident that there is not a type of algae you will find in a pool that Algae Complete won't prevent or kill. So a few ounces of this every single week, you are not going to have a green pool. It works with your sanitizer, it works with your oxidizer. This is your step number 3. You put this in every single week, your pool doesn't turn green. It's that simple. There are a couple of additional options if you need them, but for the most part, Algae Complete is really the best algicide that we have to offer. The other thing I want to point out is when we were talking about phosphate removal, let's skip ahead here because we're running a little long, but when we talk about phosphate removal, taking out phosphates will make this much of a difference in algae's ability to grow in your water. So over here, this green one had a lot of phosphates to eat. Over here, this clear one didn't have phosphates to eat. So that shows you the importance of water balance and phosphate removal in the process of water balance. So that can make a big difference also. All right, so how do you make overall pool care easier? Pool Complete Weekly is a great way to make it easier. This is a 3-in-1 product that you add every single week as just part of your regular maintenance. And it has 3 things in it, okay? It's 4 ounces per 10,000 gallons a week, so it doesn't take a lot of product, but it has 3 technologies in the bottle. One is a phosphate remover, right? I just showed you what an impact it can have to keep phosphate levels low in pools. This has a phosphate remover in it. You put it in every week, you keep your phosphate level low, you help prevent algae from growing. Number 2, it has an enzyme in it. Enzymes help break down greases and oils and all that stuff bathers put in your pool. They help break those things down to make your shock work better, your filter be more efficient, keep the water more clear with less work. The third thing that they have in this product has in it is a clarifier. What a clarifier does is it takes small particles in the water and makes them into bigger particles. So picture small kernels of popcorn and they've been made into a popcorn ball. Right? So small particles into bigger particles. The filter can catch bigger particles a lot more effectively than it can catch smaller particles. So that clarifier makes your filter be able to remove dirt and debris a lot faster from the water, which keeps it more clear and it makes the water look better. So adding this product on a weekly basis keeps your phosphate level low, which helps prevent algae. It keeps the water more clear because the enzymes are helping your shock do a better job, right? And the clarifier also helps by taking small particles, make them bigger, and we can remove them faster and help keep the water clear. All of these things in one bottle. You add just a few ounces every week as part of your pool care maintenance routine. Do you have to use it? No. Do I highly recommend it? Yes. It is a great way to make pool care easier. This is a new product I want to take a minute to talk about. If you stick around to the end, hang with me, we're getting to the end. If you stick around to the end, we got a really cool offer for this particular product. But this is pool perfume, the way I like to describe it. Brand new this year. If you're having a party or something like that, you can put this actually into your water and it scents the water. This smells a little bit like coconut and can't remember what we called it, palm trees. Smells a little bit like suntan lotion, but when you're swimming in the water, instead of smelling chemicals or anything like that, you're going to smell coconuts and beachy smells and things like that. So it actually scents the water when you're swimming around in it. It's a really pleasant beachy type smell in the water. Just a few ounces to go in. This scent will last you all day. So if you're having a party or something like that, it's a great addition to the pool to make the party a little bit more fun and a little bit more festive. So Great new product. The folks at the Pool and Spa House can tell you a lot more about it, but pool perfume, that's really the best way to describe it. And it's a
This
great
is almost
addition.
over.
Oh. All right. So let's recap real quick, then we'll talk about salt real quick. If you're opening pool, we're past that. In-season care, we have our Silk Guard Complete. We're going to use Smart Shock. I forgot to change out that slide. Algae Complete, Pool Complete Weekly. Those are the things that you need to be the most focused on here. If your water goes cloudy, first of all, bring your water into the Pool and Spa House. That's the most important thing that I can ask of you. But we have a couple of products that's going to clear up cloudy water very quickly. We have a product called Pool Complete 911 that will clear up cloudy water almost immediately. You may be familiar with a product called Polysheen Blue. That will also help you. But if your water is cloudy, the best, and it will go probably a little bit cloudy at some point, bring your water to the Pool and Spa House. Let them test it and guide you on what you need to do. All right, so very quickly, the differences if you have a saltwater pool. Joelle, this is for you. So when you put salt in a pool, salt is Na and Cl. Cl is a chloride molecule or a chlorine molecule. When you put salt into a pool, and hang in there for those of you who don't have salt pool, we're almost done, and you do want to stick around to the end, I promise. So that salt molecule gets broken in half by a cell, an actual piece of equipment that gets put on your plumbing system, and electricity passes through that cell, and it breaks that salt molecule in half, and it releases that chlorine molecule. And when you release that chlorine molecule, it gets transformed into actual active chlorine. So instead of adding a chlorine tablet, we're actually manufacturing chlorine inside the pool. So we still have a chlorine pool, but we're manufacturing it inside the actual pool. So it's a really easy way to make chlorine. You add salt, the salt gets busted apart, made into active chlorine, turns back into salt. You break it apart again into active chlorine, and you constantly make chlorine over and over again. There's a couple of different programs for this. One, we have our Mineral Springs program. Our Mineral Springs program is the closest thing to the easy button you get in pool care. You start with beginnings to get your salt level established, and you establish an optimizer level, which we're going to talk about just very briefly here in a minute. You put your stabilizer, your sunscreen in. You put in some stain and scale control to protect from that calcium problem. Pardon me. All of these things are blended into this bag that gets you started on salt. Once you get that in there, you put some extra stain and scale in. The only thing that you put in for the whole rest of the summer is a product called Renewal once a week. That's it. That's going to do your balancing. It's going to do your sanitizing. It's going to do everything that you need it to do. And that's how easy our Mineral Springs system is. And the folks at the Pool and Spa House can tell you a lot more about that. If you're not on Mineral Springs, salt will only take away step number 1. It replaces your sanitizer. You still need to use step number 2. And we have a product called Shock Complete that is good for step number 2. For salt pools, you'd still use Algae Complete, and you could still use the Pool Complete Weekly. So you can certainly do Mineral Springs and add some Pool Complete Weekly, which we just talked about, to make that better. Or we have a product called Optimizer. Now, if you're using beginnings, Optimizer is already added in there. If you're not using Mineral Springs, you would add this separately. If you're using regular chlorine, come back to me, my chlorine pool owners. If you're using regular chlorine, Optimizer is also a great product for you. This product is underutilized in our industry in general, and pools in general. Optimizer goes in your pool one time a season. That's it. You don't add it weekly. You don't have to add it all the time. It goes in your pool one time a season. And it is a product that when you put it in, you will be able to tell a huge difference in the way the water looks. It's going to sparkle. It's going to have better clarity. It's going to feel soft. Very, very soft. If you don't have salt, it'll feel more like a salt pool. If you do have salt, it'll be even softer. It's going to be easier to balance. Your pH is going to be more stable with it. It's got some algae preventative capabilities to it. The water overall is going to be amazingly easy to take care of. This product lets you make mistakes with your pool without paying for them. That is the easiest way I can describe it. You put it in at the beginning of the season, you put it in now, you won't have to add it again, or you shouldn't have to add it again at all this season. You'll have to add a little bit next season when you open up for the spring, but it's stable. It stays in. Joelle, is your kind of product. Yeah, it's a great product. If you use beginnings, Joelle, you've already put it in as part of your beginnings. If you're not on beginnings, this is something that I would highly recommend adding to your salt pool to make the water easier to manage, to make it feel better and look better. And you will have a lot less problems with your pool when you put Optimizer in. And again, it just runs along in the background. You only add it one time. It's not something you have to add on a weekly basis. It is an absolute superb product. And for you, Joelle, if you need to shock, or anyone that has Salt Shock Complete, which is a new product this year, is the preferred shock to use for our salt pools. And it also, you can swim in 15 minutes, dissolves very quickly, very easy to use. And it adds some sunscreen to the pool, some stabilizer to the pool, which will help your saltwater pools a lot, because that chlorine that we make out of salt does not have any sunscreen on it. So we either have to add it with stabilizer, or using Shock Complete will also help add some of that in order to help you out a little. All right, so we're wrapped up here. How do I get the most out of a salt pool? Balancing is key, Joelle. I'm picking on you because you said you had salt. I know you have salt. Watch your pH. Your pH is constantly going to want to be high. Optimizer can help with that. Using renewal, if you're on mineral springs, will help with that. But always keep an eye on your pH and make sure that you're oxidizing if you need to. Final product, just very quickly, if you're not familiar with it, Smart Shield is a product. This is a solar blanket, but it's a liquid solar blanket. So if you're trying to keep heat in, you want to warm your pool up, or you're extending your swimming season, I always like to call this product out real quick. This is a solar blanket without having to pull a solar blanket on and off the pool. You can add it once a month. It creates a thin filament layer over the top of the water, and it helps hold heat in. It also preserves water. So if you lose a lot of water to evaporation, this can help reduce that amount of water that you lose. So, all right, you stuck with me to the end. I'm sorry I ran a little bit over. That happens to me a lot. Trust me, I've been told I talk too much. But so to wrap up here, and then I'll take any questions you might have. If you scan this QR code on your phones, it will take you to a digital wallet pass, and it's going to give you a digital wallet pass for a free bottle of Sensify. All you have to do is take it into your pool and spa house location, show it to the retail store associate, and they are going to give you a free bottle of Sensify. Remember, that's the pool perfume that we talked about. So just for attending tonight, you're going to get a free bottle of Sensify. So scan that QR code, get that wallet pass, download it to your phone, and show it to the retail store associate. So I'm going to leave that up. And with that, Tony, apologize. I did run a little bit longer. You know to expect that from me because I talk too much and all of that. But I will turn it back over to you, and I will also take any questions.
Yeah, go ahead and use that chat function, and any questions you might have, send them there. If you think about them after the fact, after we end tonight, just bring those questions into your local store, and we will certainly get those answered for you. Well, we know that your time is super valuable, and we're so grateful that you chose to spend this last hour plus with us. And we're super grateful. Alicia, thank you for leading us tonight with some great information, a lot of good nuggets, certainly to take away. So we'll just keep this open just for another minute or so to see if there's any more questions that come in, and we will answer those, and just hang around as long as you would like. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very much. Again, we will post this on our YouTube channel here in the near future. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thank you guys very much for being here.